Hello, I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Catholic Spotlight. Joining me today is Carlos Foggin, who is founder and music director of the Rocky Mountain Symphony Orchestra. Thanks for joining us today, Carlos.
Well, thanks for having me, Mario.
And what we're talking about today is you're the creator of the original musical score for the Litany of St. Joseph, which is coming up March 17th at Jack Singer Concert Hall. Tell me just a little bit about the history of this. How did you get involved in creating a musical score, especially for this?
Well, I had been always interested in in sacred music. I grew up in church and hearing these beautiful litanies and prayers, and I was commissioned by the God Squad Society to create this piece. Part of their mandate, Catholic men, is a great devotion to Saint Joseph, and of
Yeah.
course the patron saint of Canada and the patron saint of the Universal Church. And they just realized it had never been set to music other than Gregorian chant and plainsong settings that we use, and thought it was about time that we changed that. So they approached me to create a work that would stand up to the other great litanies that have been written, hopefully, and that's where we are, and we'll all get to hear how that's come together on 17th.
So tell me just a little bit about what will take place on the 17th. Uh,
So uh, it's a concert style. There's a number of different groups, community groups, parish groups coming together to sing music of their cultural heritage, of their language, of their tradition. And so we're blessed to hear French music, a Nigerian choir. We have music in Vietnamese, um, and just these fabulous groups that are all sending their musicians to also sing in the litany. But we're also highlighting community. We're highlighting the diocese, the very culture that exists here, that exists in so many more languages than just English, and so many more faith traditions that have come together to make what makes Calgary and Alberta great.
so how long did it take you to do this musical score?
Oh, this is we're on version number I can't count. When I was initially approached, they thought, oh, well, it takes us about 5 minutes to pray the litany, so we should be able to do the music in 8 or 9. And I said, well, let's call it 12. And then this was kind of mid-pandemic, and then the opportunity to perform it kind of got pushed and pushed and pushed, and I just kept going back to it and going back to it and going back to it. And now what was originally going to be about 10 minutes has evolved to something with a full orchestra and four operatic soloists and 13 movements, and it's going to be at least a half hour long, highlighting musically each of the very delicate portions of the litany that could use a little more extra musical treatment. So all in all, it's been about 3 years. And as a composer, it's not like something you can just say, all right, do this now, and it's going to be done in a month. You think about it, you go to the mountains, you take a vacation, you come back, you write down another page, and then you come back to it in 3 months and go, okay, I've got some ideas here. So it's a longer process. It can be pushed, but the best things always come to those who really wait.
What was your initial reaction when the God Squad approached you to do this?
Well, I thought Sean had probably been drinking too much. No.
Well, he does love his drams.
He does love his drams, yeah. Uh, first I was honored doing a little more research into this. There are more litanies that have been set to music by the famous European Western composers, Mozart and the like. Mostly litanies of Our Lady, and nothing really to Saint Joseph. Um,
Hmm.
I, I guess if you had to pick one, she might win, right? And there's more opportunity to sing the litanies to Our Lady, and of course, being European, most of the countries are dedicated to the Virgin, especially Spanish-speaking countries. Even America is dedicated to Our Lady. Canada is fairly unique in that our country is dedicated to Saint Joseph. There's only a very short list of countries who have Saint Joseph as their patron saint, despite him being the guardian and patron of the Universal Church. So we kind of thought something in that line of those great composers, that at least that length and that style that could hold up to that musical treatment.
Did you, going into this, did you know much about Saint Joseph?
Probably no. No is the short answer. I've learned a lot about Saint Joseph. I think if anyone wants to learn about something, get hired to write a piece about it, and you'll learn a lot about it.
Yeah.
My knowledge of Saint Joseph was really Luke chapter 2, um, knocking on doors at the inn,
Mm.
off to the temple to find Jesus teaching, and then he kind of disappears.
Yeah.
He's not even there at the final days. The gospelers don't really document what he's done.
Yeah.
I always had a feeling he was kind of there behind the scenes, just making sure everybody was getting to places on time and they're up. But he doesn't seem to make the mention. So
Yeah.
as much as anybody, I mean those two bits are about it that we get.
Going through this experience, what has it meant for you on a maybe on a spiritual level?
Ah, I I guess I'm kind of a country boy at heart, and I think back to our Old Testament times, our prophets. Of course, we just had the readings this last week about the Transfiguration, going up into the mountains and closer to God, so to speak. Moses received the commandments in the mountains. The apostles, the Transfiguration, all those things happened higher up,
Yeah.
and we live in Alberta, and we have the most glorious mountains here, God's country, as my family likes to call it, and I'm sure everyone around. Uh, and so I tried to take not only a spiritual connection, but also being unique. We are Canadian, and taking not only the culture of Canada, because what is the musical culture of Canada? We really don't have one. Um, Thankfully, we haven't had a nationalism, a push into a national style of music, because we're so young. So we're really inspired by the landscape that we have. We have oceans. We have, I mean, you go from Vancouver to Nunavut. You can't say that there's anything in Canada our strength is diversity. That's what makes Canada so unique.
Yeah.
Is we have everywhere from Halifax to Vancouver to Winnipeg, all the way up to the Arctic Circle. There's nothing that unites us except our diversity. And so in this piece, I specifically chose to split the litany into 13 parts to represent the 13 provinces
Oh,
and territories.
cool.
So each one of them, and there's not a specific. This is Alberta. This is Ontario. Just the symbolism is there that as we travel from east to west, things happen. And my inspiration, I grew up on the land. I grew up in a farm in southern Alberta. A river ran through it, literally, so to speak, and the mountains were in the background. Just a gorgeous piece of land. And so you'll hear valleys and hills and rolling rivers, and then the starkness, the sharpness of the mountains, the rock and the majesty, but also just kind of the power and the it's kind of cold and scary at the top of a mountain, and so those parts also feature into the music, especially when we think of protector of the Holy Church or terror of demons. We could really just have the power of the Rocky Mountains pushing down on us there.
Yeah.
So I was inspired by the land, the text, the country in which we live, the history of music in Canada. There's a lot of fantastic little musical tidbits that sneak in into this piece just based on the music of our country.
Hmm.
So there's lots of things that come to play into making this work.
Excellent. Now, what do you hope that people who experience it will come out of, after it's done feeling?
Well, I hope they all don't come out feeling the same thing, because that would have been a little manipulative. I hope that people come in with an open mind, thinking it's in Latin. It's a dead language, and that being that the language doesn't change anymore. We look at how words change. It just, I mean, in the last 20 years, radical and literal and all these words that we use that have changed in meaning. Latin doesn't do that. So and anyone in the church, the the education of our clergy and the dealings, the goings on in Rome still happen officially in Latin. And so to keep it in the form that um, the the Catholic missionaries coming from France in 1624 would have
Mm,
been familiar with when they came here, maintaining that 400-year tradition,
yeah.
keeping it in that language, and then it's not in English to because honestly, the first non-native speakers in Canada were French, so we should be doing this in French if we were doing anything. But to keep it just in a language that is non-partial and non-partisan, and just is the language that it was written in, and I hope people come out of that thinking, oh, that was inspiring in whatever way that it inspires them. Hoping them to maybe, I hope people take a deeper look at St. Joseph and the music of Canada
Mm,
and our role in this country, whether it's spiritually or just unifying the country. We live in some disturbing political times, and Canada is going to have to really come together on some things. And if we can see unity and a strong front and just increasing our reliance on Saint Joseph, on all the saints, just all of that is going to come into play if people just come out of that thinking, well, that was a prayer I can get behind, or I need to learn more, or I need to do more of that. That
mhm.
everybody's going to have a different response, and I just hope it invokes some response.
All right. Before we sign off, just curious about your faith background, if you could give us a little bit about that.
Well, I'm actually, I was not born Catholic. I was raised in the Mormon faith. I was raised in the LDS Church, and a lot of my training is kind of in that. Everyone knows the Mormon Tabernacle Choir, one of the most famous choirs on earth, and in fact named a national treasure in the United States.
Oh,
And as an organist, in fact, I started attending heavily Catholic services after I was asked to work with a choir here in Calgary in 2008. And we went to Lourdes for the 150th anniversary of the apparitions, and we're fortunate enough to sing for huge masses. The Pope was in attendance at these masses in the huge underground basilica, and what an experience to be at Lourdes for the 150th. And that kind of led me on a, a journey, working in the Catholic faith, and just learning all I could, and really absorbing the faith, and coming to see really what it was all about and how it could change things, and really fell in love with this, the longevity in the tradition. Currently, as an organist, I'm somewhat of a pilgrim these days. There's a joke that the organist will have to play their own funeral because there's no subs available. And so currently, I'm staving off and giving breaks for organists at many different parishes throughout the city and throughout the region. I don't have a current church job anymore, which is lovely. I kind of get to visit every church and every little parish, and play the organ, and help their music ministry, and just be involved in that way. So I'm lucky. I get to see beautiful spaces, and see different masses every week, and work with different priests, and it's a great journey for me.
wonderful. Well, thanks so much, Carlos, for joining us today.
Thank you, Mario. Thank you for the opportunity, and thank you for the interest.
All right, that was Carlos Foggin, who is founder and music director of the Rocky Mountain Symphony Orchestra. He's also the creator of the original music score for the upcoming Litany of St. Joseph, March 17th at Jack Singer Hall. I'm Mario Toneguzzi with Catholic Spotlight. Thanks for joining us today.